Hello, hello. I see 5 lovely people here. Hello, I'm Rainey Ford of Mountain Woman Medicine. You're sitting with me tonight on the mountain at Nematon, and we are going to be discussing expectations. Expectations in the middle of winter. It's quite the interesting topic. So if you're new to this channel, go ahead and pop over and hit the subscribe button. There's a little bell. If you click it, it'll give you notifications when I go live, so you can hop along and see what's going on. Liking and subscribing and sharing are all really great ways to invite people to come and be a part of this process and to help move this bus forward as I keep plowing through. One note before I get going.
Sorry. Can I interrupt also?
Sure.
You're not showing up on my screen. You might want to hit the camera, I think, maybe.
Yeah? Huh. Use... Okay. I'm seeing an allow. Would you take a look at this?
Yeah.
It says use the camera, use the microphone, allowed, but they're flashing red.
Okay. I hear you. I just didn't see a picture. Maybe I'm in the wrong place.
Yeah. Can someone let me know in the comments? Can you guys see me okay, or can you only hear me? Yeah, we'll refine all this stuff later. These live chats are going to be kind of like you were sitting in a classroom with me and we were doing a session together. The only thing that's different. Oh, awesome. Sweet. Thank you, Angelic Armory. Appreciate it. Hi, Becky. Lovely to see you, lady. In my mind's eye, I am imagining seeing all of the people that are present. I can see but a number on my end. And when I work with people in like classes and sessions, I'm normally able to look at the screen and either see one person or see several of them lined up. And I can see all the body reactions and the language and the expressions. And it's deeply interactive for me. So sitting here looking at a screen, I have to travel through a place in my mind that lets me see where you all might be in your own realities. Some of you I know, some of you I don't know. The more you talk to me and you put things in the comments, or you like and subscribe and you share my things and you talk about what you like, the more I'll get to know you and the more I will imagine what I'm seeing as I imagine who's on the other end of this listening. And yeah, I'm a creature who responds in this human design system. I'm a generator. And so I am designed to show up and respond to the things that are in my world. And I am learning to make use of this digital world as a means to meet many people where they are simultaneously. My task becomes really being able to imagine and see you guys there so I have something to respond to. Otherwise, I sort of feel like, why am I staring at a screen looking at a picture of myself? So anyway, we're going to get ourselves back on track. I have a little note here that says buckle up. This is for people who might not be used to the speed and the flow at which I speak. And so when I get going quickly, and I will roll through an entire thought, and then I will stop and I'll go, does that make sense? Go ahead and throw up a comment if it doesn't make sense, and I will explain it in a different way. That's kind of what I'm here to do, is explain things in ways that people can understand. And so this is a deep practice for me of showing up and being willing to respond to questions and things that I can answer. That's just from my experience. Like, my answers are not always going to be the end all be all. All I can do is show up and say, this is what I am. And I am Mountain Woman, and I live on a mountain, and I tend a mountain, and I serve the mountain, and I don't serve humans anymore. I serve nature. I serve the mountains. I serve the message from the mountain. If you want to hear more about what all that means and what's developed, you can pop over to mountainwomanmedicine.com. You'll see the link down below. You can also pop over to Nematon's website, which you can find through Mountain Woman Medicine's website. There's a whole rabbit trail in Warren that I have created as I have been learning to explain and turn my world inside out and learn to play with life. Otherwise, I got really bored with it. So here's to playing and having lots of fun. And Eagle Eyes, I am entering into power saving mood. So there's a malfunction somewhere. Okay, nope, I found it. Sorry, guys. All right, I think there we go. It's wonderful to see you guys, Madeline and Kelsey and Jay, the hype. All right, so yeah, tonight, expectations. I had wanted this series to be something that was, sort of had a poshness and a professionalness to it. And the best thing I could do is kind of go on the fly with what I'm presented with. And so my personal journey with expectations is sort of really wrapped around seeing them, acknowledging that they have a purpose and they give me a trajectory, writing them down, making a plan for them, and then fucking letting it go, because how it's going to roll is how it's going to roll, and just get on and play with it. And so that's what we're doing. And so expectations, how to spot them. I'm just going to kind of run through what I'm going to go through, and then I'm going to dive. I encourage you to pause and rewind and replay. If you get to a point where you're like, whoa, where'd she go? Pause and rewind it. I have a map in front of me that I'm looking at. It's chicken scratching to most people. But for me, it's a brain mapping of where I'm going with a concept. So you can often rewind and be like, okay, that's where she went. So how to spot them, expectations, right? Where do they live inside of us, and where are they coming from when they're being aimed at us? Where they live, how to spot them, why we need them, and how to work with them. We can't eradicate them, and we can't live our entire life based on them. So we don't get to live at either end of the spectrum. This is like the edges of isness and notness, and it's a very wide road, and we're going to be walking this sort of line that shows us like where it's good to and where it's not, right? And so let's go into that a little bit. Expectations. Human design is a system that shows us sort of how people are broken up in how they function. If we look at people in a way of how we expect ourselves to be overlaid upon who they are, we have no idea whether we're right or wrong. So, for example, human design, emotional centers. People are either defined in an emotional center or they're undefined, open or here for a purpose. Open means it is where their lessons are, it is where their wisdoms are. Defined is here to be in that lane. That is their lane. So take that in for a minute. If you're emotionally defined, emotions are your lane. It's a rocky wave. It's crazy, and it's your lane. You are either here to experience it in your own life's journey, or you're here to experience observing it in other people's lives and here to see it and feel it in a different sort of way. Those who are undefined are here to be the reflecting wall. Hi, beautiful, emotionally defined being. It is an honor to meet you. Not take it on. You're not a sponge. You're a wall. You're a sounding board, a mirror, a reflection. And so we can be of deep help to our brothers and sisters on either direction, because us as the walls and the sounding boards, me personally, I'm undefined in the emotions. I'm more Vulcan than I am Klingon. If you think of emotionally defined people as Klingons and the emotionally open people as the Vulcans, at their core nature, undefined folks are not here to really deeply live in that place of emotion. It is not feeding for them. It is draining. It is exhausting. They can't find a beauty in it. That isn't where they live. And so what I'm doing is I'm giving you a reflection of your own self. How do you feel about your expectations of your own emotional being? Do you feel critical about yourself in that way? Do you consider yourself to be unemotional? Do you consider yourself to be a crybaby? Do you hate on yourself when you cry? Do you often think, I don't cry enough, or I cry too much, or gosh, other people tell me I cry a lot, or why am I always crying? Any and all of those questions are going to lead you into the journey of what are your own expectations of your own emotions within yourself? I'm going to ask, does that make sense? And take a quick moment to read through. Okay, cool. All right, I'll pop back and check and see if anything else pops up. No questions, just sort of affirmations. So that's the piece about expectations in yourself. Where do you feel about them? You can begin to explore it either by just working with yourself and thinking and asking those questions of yourself and noting any reactions that come up. Either no reaction is still a reaction. Oh, I don't know how I feel about that one. That's also a reaction. All those things are reactions. And the only thing that's not a reaction is curiosity. It's like, ooh, what could that mean? That's almost like a reflection of a neutral. If you're trying to move from the wide end spectrums of overly emotional or underly emotional, you want to be in the middle and you want to be curious. What are you here for? What are other people here for? What is Trump here for? Why is cryptocurrency here for? Why do we still have cavemen mentalities and a life and a world and a structure and economics that reflect that we should have a much higher way of thinking? Like, start asking why, and you'll start to not be reactive, which is on either end of the spectrum, and you'll get to see really what the scope of everything is that we're all here to do and to be a part of. It's my deep belief that we are all here for a powerful reason. Each one of us is here for a mission, for a purpose, and to each person their own. And it's really beautiful and unique in that way. And the only way we get to that place of being able to see Joe Schmo in a grocery store, or that person that we just had a really bad disagreement with last week, or our relative that we are not speaking to anymore because of how they treated us last Christmas. Any of those dynamics are going to come up and be like, this is where I can do some work. Back to expectations. Spotting them in yourself. We talked about that. Spotting them in other people. Wow. Okay. So in yourself is the easiest place to begin. Self is one. That's the easiest place. Anytime you talk about anything outside of your 3-foot square of turf that is you, you are talking about, what are we at? 8 billion some people? And so you never know what those influences are going to look like, let alone the ones you can't see. Right? Just being in the same room with somebody can have an effect on us, let alone living around them, to this mass diversity here in this world. Middle is comfy. Yes, middle road. I love how I live here, kind of in the middle of the road. I'm not completely removed from society. I live kind of on the edges. I'm just on the other side of like the suburbia into the rural side. But I go 5 minutes one direction and I'm back in, sort of an edge walker in that place, and had to really find what my role was. I used to live in a very different way than I live now. And there are times where I'll look back on that fondly, and then I'll remember why I'm here. And for me, the middle way is, for me, it's the easiest way. It is hard fucking work to work that middle path where you are both doing it and living it, and you are seeking to understanding it and surrendering and letting it go. It's like one step and then the other, and then one step and then the other. And so you get to really deeply live and be as a human while you're also deeply doing that work of diving in to the muck and mire of what you don't know and all your reactions and crazy explorations and experiences in life, and going, and so why is this happening? What am I here for? What am I meant to experience? Rather than saying, well, I expected to have this be a different way. God, expectations are such a disguise for lessons. We need expectations. So let's travel to the other side of expectations for a second. Expectations. If we don't expect a thing, we might never do a thing. We don't have animals. Well, expectations born out of instinct. As we evolve as a human species, we have a change in our evolution of how we have instinct show up. The instinct to stay and take care of your young, the instinct to go out and forage for food, the instinct to just go do these things without having to think about it. The more we became a thinking race, the more we had to have verbal and thinking expectations, so we had a construct that we could put our weight down in. Expectations can bite us in the ass when we are not aware of where they are and using them where they are meant to be used, right? So that's part of the reason why we need them. How to work with them. this is where I so deeply love the tool of human design. Gen Keys is really helpful too, especially when you get further into the deeper workings of looking at other people's charts and seeing what groups you fall into, soul paths and amino acid chain rings, and it's a really luxurious dive. But it basically, on the human design side of things, when you can find out what someone is defined in, whether they have, no matter what they have, I can't even pull up all the details. If someone wants to give me an example, I will use that as an example. Yeah. Where was I? Internal and external expectations. How to work with them. Right, how to work with them. Human design. When you can find someone's chart, you can kind of have a map into understanding how they work. Becky says, Rob is emotionally defined and she is not. Myself and my partner, neither of us are emotionally defined. When emotionally defined, so if two emotionally defined people walked into a room, they're going to be in whatever wave cycle they're in, right? And if they can have an awareness and look at each other and be like, oh, hey, you're in your wave, I'm in my wave, yay, waves, right? They get to kind of commiserate with, oh, we're in our fields. We are feeling people, right? You are the ocean. People who are undefined is the bedrock of the ocean. It's the thing that holds the ocean. It's that ground around it and beneath it. It supports it. But what fills it, all that water, is all the emotional defined. So it's, God, they are linked so closely. But so I'm having this beautiful imagery come to mind of sand that is just the ocean floor being layers and layers of sand with all the water being layered down through all that sand. So that hard earth and ocean floor that we would think of as hard and solid isn't so solid. And neither are us emotionally undefined people. We are like sponges. That is what is natural to us. Mirrors is almost an unfair term to call those who are undefined in those places when they are aware that they are and they can be in that place of strength. They're still not a hard surface. They are a permeable membrane. Those of us who are undefined, we are a permeable membrane. And to really feel what it means to be a creature of amplification, we have to understand how much we are capable of saturation. So we have a huge capacity to hold on to so much. Only 10% of what we could hold on to might be good for us, but we can hold 100%. And so we're 90% past our capacity. That's where our pain comes in. To understand that level of saturation gives you an understanding of what your base expectation can be and be healthy. Just because you can take a lot doesn't mean it serves you to do so. That was a deep lesson I learned, because for many, many years I said, if you are able, then you must. But that's a survivalist mentality. It's not a thriving mentality. And so when I sat back and I really looked at, I'm capable of a lot. What am I here for? Totally changed the ballgame. Blew it right out of the water. The need for borders is wise. Borders and boundaries, not only is it wise, in nature exists because of it, right? I mean, the earth is all held together with this magnetic and gravity and the fields that exist around it. Everything exists because of pressures. Stones are formed under pressure. Humans are grown up from babies into adults because of pressure and societal and cultural reform and how their parents treated them and what their friends said and what they said about themselves. And like, this is how we're brought up. To really understand and decondition ourselves, we have to understand the pressure. We can't remove it. Other people's pressure, other people's expectations are gonna be what they're gonna be. We can't change them. The only thing we can do is change ourselves. We can deeply learn about ourselves. We can even deeply learn about other people. But just because we understand it doesn't mean that we can change that reality for them. And that's some of the hardest pieces to accept. The pressure of expectation, right? The pressure of expectation. And so it's almost like being a victim of expectations. Expectations by themselves aren't a bad thing. A knife is not a bad thing. To be a victim of a knife is to be laying there bleeding. To own a knife, different story. I like knives. I like knives on me all the time. I pretty much have them on me all the time. I'm not a victim of those knives. I mean, have I slipped and cut my thumb wide open? Hell yeah, absolutely. I learned from it. But I own the knife. It's not embedded in me. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Yes. God, that still gives me goosebumps when I hear that lesson, because it is such a deep reminder. And I explain that to myself, and I understand that to myself in a way of, I am a generator. I have this perpetual energy for things, right? And I have energy for certain things in certain ways at certain times and for certain things. And God, that makes me a picky fucking bitch, but that makes me my unique way of being. And I don't need to shout it from the treetops. I don't need to demand it of people. I don't need to even, I explain about it in this modality because I invite other people to really accept how they are. You know, find your deepest, darkest, I'm not like that. And what about maybe if you are? What can that serve? What can that serve when you turn it inside out and you see how it can serve the whole? Everything has a purpose, and nothing in nature questions its place. Oh, okay, I'm taking a look at comments here. Madeline says, I am thinking how that feels like home when we are in that shared emotions. Yeah, for sure. I love joining people on their emotional roller coaster. Because I'm undefined. It's completely my lesson, and I've already surrendered to it. They're not surrendering to theirs yet. They're still fighting and screaming. I'm like, come on, baby, it's fun. This is cool. And it might just be, deep in the emotions. I'm not talking like the happy, fun ones or the angry ones. It's all of the spectrum. But if I'm there, I'm fully there, and I'm showing up. And it's, for me, that is where I go to learn. And for me, my learning is my playground. My learning used to be my torture cell. Yep. Learned that bit and went, oh, maybe I need to not try so hard. Maybe I just need to have more acceptance. And so releasing that expectation in myself of what needed to happen. Learning that I'm not an emotionally defined being, and that I can show up deeply present for those who are, because as long as I understand that I surrender to not being defined in them, then I'm a really good support. Because I don't take it on, I don't soak it up. Eagle Eyes or Psychic Sojourn says, being aware can allow us to communicate better with others. Knowing if they are defined or not allows us to meet them where they are. Right. Meeting people where they are is so important. Meeting them where they are and not taking on where they are. When we look at other people and maybe it's how they look, maybe it's how they dress, maybe it's how they are speaking, maybe it's whatever reaction you might be having, just stepping back and just listening and just finding in that moment, no expectations. This is a practice you can do. No expectations, just appreciation. What do you appreciate about in that moment? Find something. It's pretty easy. Humans are really complex. They're really interesting and intriguing beings. I have one last note here that says, don't take things personally. When you're working with trying to release expectations, the biggest thing is learning to not take things personally and to not assume into other people's realities. Really take your time and energy and delve into your own reality when you find yourself in a place of expectations. Dan says, how do you manage Moose's expectations? That's a really great question. Moose Dog, who's currently asleep on the couch behind me. He is a large German Shepherd who has a great amount of expectations of the world. And how do I manage that? I spend a lot of time deeply listening to him. I'll sit right down on the ground next to him and listen to him and look into his eyes and go, okay, what could he possibly be thinking? And then I realize that 50% of the time I'm probably wrong, but my earnestness in trying to communicate with him makes him go, ooh, what's going on? And so it takes our relationship one step deeper. And then I often learn what he's trying to tell me based on his sounds or his head nods or his head tilts. He wants his bone, or he wants to go outside, or he wants his ball. It's mostly ball. Did that answer your question, Dan? Lionhawk. Yeah. Still deciding where you stand on the emotional aspect of being defined or undefined. You feel like you go in between. Sure. Running a human design chart on yourself. You can go to jovianarchive.com. You can also just type in human design free chart online. You enter in your data and it will give you your chart. And I can just tell you right off the top of your head, when you're looking at the little chart guy, as you're looking at it, it's going to be the right hand corner of there's a picture of a guy or a girl sitting cross-legged, and the chart is superimposed over the profile. As you're looking at the picture, it would be what you would look at as the right knee. And so that's the emotional solar plexus center. And if it's lit up and colored in, it's defined. And if it's white, it's undefined. Very cool. Yeah, you have to come back and tell me what you think. So this is a great time to be able to say, come join us over in our different groups. I've got InnerCartography Facebook group. I also have Slack, where it's a private, it's sort of like, it would be Facebook InnerCartography group private. That's where students and people who have come out of the InnerCartography class, when they get done with class, that's where they stay. And I'm beginning to invite people in who want to have more private and deep conversations and do story sharing where it's not in the public eye. The public eye is because I wanted a place where I could share this kind of deep stuff, where people could go, I just want to go to this place and get a download of something. So that's what that place is for. But for deeper conversations, I invite people to join me on the Mountain Woman Medicine Slack. And there is a channel that's dedicated just towards this sort of work back and forth and us supporting each other. As much as this is my business, it is my practice. It is my way of life. And so I want community in that way. And those who decide to do work with me on a deeper way, then that's where exchanges come in. And there's all sorts and various kinds of different exchanges, not just on a monetary end. And that's where the monetary end lives. So yeah, I invite you guys to come and play with those places.
We'll make sure those links are below.
Yes, we'll make sure that down below in the comments, there's already some there. The Facebook group is down there. And I'll make sure that the Slack one gets there as well. You can just come on over. Just be aware, I am the guard dog at the gate over there. Just like I am the guard dog at the gate at the mountain here. If there are things that go all-re on that site, then... well, I don't want to get into all that. That will be an upcoming video where I talk about expectations and mountain etiquette. How are you doing on time anyway? 30 minutes. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I just got done finishing up the mountain etiquette sort of reboot for this year. As every year it does, it gives us a few learning things. And so I was adding a couple of new ways of being able to share understandings around how things are up here. Up here at the mountain, we live a very, very different way of life. We live this way no matter where we go. And like, if there's one thing I'm a stubborn ass bitch about, it's about having that space and being able to live in that space for myself. And my service is to make that space and grow that space and hold that space for other people. That's what I love to do. I love you guys. All right, this has been fun. Well, those are the notes that I have. So if anybody has any other questions, otherwise I think we'll leave it at that. Is there any bits that I'm missing, Eagle Eyes?
No,
Eagle Eyes, am I missing anything?
Do you want to advertise your herb?
Oh, right. March 8th, coming up, is going to be Herb 2. It is Herbal First Aid and Emergency Holistic, well, AKA Emergency Holistic Medicine. It's where we really delve into what's behind the kits that I take to festivals and I work with people with. My background is as a paramedic and a nurse, firefighter. I've done a lot of intense stuff in that way, and then also as an herbalist and as a homesteader. I was born that way. It's my whole way of life. So I have a very mixed healing bag that's a mix of holistic medicines and modern medicines, and I have a way that I do things. And over the years, people have said, hey, we run a class on this? And we're coming back around again. We're doing another rendition of that. So we'll be tearing that apart and showing you. I'll be showing you and talking to you about how I do these things, how I make the medicines that I make in order to do these things with. And it starts on March 8th. Any other bits?
Nope.
All right. Here's to feeling awkward. All right, this is Mountain Woman Medicine up at Nematon, signing off. Love you lots. Mwah.